Welcome everybody to I, the Serpent Tarot for part 3 of the Soul Activation series. So if you've just stumbled upon this, and this is the first of the series that you've seen, there have been parts 1 and 2 before. And I would suggest, even if you watch this one, that if it draws you in and you feel intrigued by it, to go and see parts 1 and 2, and then from there on in the next couple of weeks, if you know, 3 weeks, if you are watching it as it's being published, watch them in sequence, because the whole series is based on Joseph Campbell's Hero's Quest, and 2 steps per reading are covered, so it's done sequentially. It's in a linear form, but that's up to you. You may only really be interested in this particular one for whatever reason. But otherwise, if you have been watching it, you'll know that we've been through the first 4 stages. So the sort of ordinary world and call to adventure, the resistance, the finding of the mentor. This time around, we're looking at committing to the soul activation, crossing the threshold, and doing the first, what I would call, environment scan. So that's sort of a time of testing out the environment, finding your friends, finding your allies, finding your competitors, finding your enemies if you have such. So this is getting a sense of everything. This is what we're looking at here. So it's the sort of the energies that we're going to be exploring. As with all of this series, I start with a combination of the Nameless One Tarot and Nameless One Oracle and Gnostic Tarot and the Akashic Truth Oracle to set the scene, and then we'll go into other tarot and oracle decks to look at the particulars of these stages. But what I have found has been working, and I pretty much think it's going to work again because of something that's happened with this, is that I shuffle and ask Spirit to start with for a Major Arcana card from the Nameless One Tarot to be the sigil energy and the archetypal energy for this stage of the soul activation process. And what I have been saying is that I would highly recommend, if you always chose pile 2, and it's interesting that I said pile 2 all the time, if you always chose pile 2 to do that all the way through, look at other ones by all means if you feel drawn to other ones, because there could be an amalgamation of messages for some of you, but that I have asked Spirit to keep a through line to some degree in the story. And to the extent that I can remember, and I don't always remember everything from reading to reading, but to the extent that I can remember, I'll try and hark back to those sort of through lines as I can. So that might be part of the reason that Spirit really asked me to do this over a shorter period of time. I was originally going to do it week by week, but maybe it was to try and get as much as possible that connection on the storyline across the pile. But as I say, by all means, look at other piles in this or any other one that you want, but I would choose a through line. That would be my one piece of advice. And the reason I'm pretty sure this is working is that not only was there a pretty clear through line between the first pick a card and the second pick a card, but now in the third one, the activating Major Arcana for pile 2 is the same as it was in the other. So in both cases for pile 2, the activating card is the Tower. So bear that in mind. It is showing there's some through line, and it makes perfect sense. If you have seen the other 2 for pile 2, you'll know why the Tower makes sense, that would still be the activating energy at this stage of the process. So, as always, to help you, particularly if it's the first one of this series you've seen in making your choice of pile or piles, the first pile has the Emperor card, the second pile, as I say, has the Tower, and the third pile has the Magician card. So when you know what pile or piles you want to go to, I've got the timestamps as always in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Emperor as the activating energy when you are crossing the threshold and starting to understand your terrain. As I said, there does seem to be a through line, in very broad terms. Pile 1 seems to have been about the creation of wealth and material outcomes, maybe where there's been a block or some other sort of issues. And there's issues also about the environment, I guess, in which sort of wealth or well-being or happiness, that kind of thing can occur. So I feel it makes sense that for you, in crossing the threshold and going into your terrain, you are taking on your own mastery, your own sovereignty. You're taking a very decisive action, an ambitious action, and an action to consolidate some form of leadership. So in taking this on, you're accepting that challenge. With the 2 oracle cards, if we look at this as the crossing threshold energy, and then we look at this as the environment you're in and possibly friends, allies, or enemies potentially, The crossing the threshold energy here is the bringers of the light. So this suggests that you are bringing light energy into probably a fairly sort of material, pentacly, emperor type environment. So this is to bring light into the material, into the solid, into the world, and so forth. And this talks about really clear ideas and communication about what you wish to do, what you wish to manifest, and that you have the right tools and temperament to do this. You've cleared out the impurities or the issues that you may have felt were blocking you before, and you're ready to go forward with a great deal of light. And then the environment is interesting because it's very future focused. This is actually the Oracle of the Prophet. Now, one of the other piles has a very strong prophecy line to it, so you may have felt drawn to that as well too. If that's the case, then certainly dip into any of those that you've seen. But you may even come across a prophet who may either be a friend or a foe, so that will be an interesting thing to look at. There could be a false prophet as well with some of this energy, so we'll just see what we get. Or you may have the ability of prophecy to know what is going to happen now materially because you've committed to this and you're shedding light on what might have been hidden a bit. It's interesting, therefore, what's happening here. There's definitely some shadowy stuff here to deal with, and I think it is largely sort of like either false prophets or other power energies that you're having to deal with and you're trying to shed light on. We have Simon Magus reversed here. This is the Magician card reversed. Then we have Christ's Journey, which is swords, the Seven of Swords reversed, needing to be very realistic around something that is not what it appears. And we have Christ's Journey again, another swords card, and this time with the Gnostic King, so the King of Swords reversed. I do feel that there is something about this because you are going into a sovereign, you're coming in with a sovereign energy. There's materiality to what this is all about and what you're supposed to do, whether it's about growing wealth or well-being of people, other people. You're taking on some sort of a leadership role here. You're shedding light, but in doing it, you are also bringing to the surface those that are not operating well. So I do think it's going to be particularly interesting in this reading to look at the foes, enemies, competitors, because that's a lot of what you need to take in at first in the train of what you're dealing with. And either use your own prophetic ability or be very, very careful and do a big, strong reality check on anybody who's trying to kind of guide you and so forth. I sort of get a sense of almost like, for some of you, a kind of almost a merging of Machiavelli and Nostradamus. If you could imagine those two together, sort of strategic, sort of crafty, politically manipulative Machiavelli with Nostradamus with the supposed prophecy and seeing the future. I do think for some of you, you're going to have people who want to guide you or serve you in some way, and maybe they're not all to be trusted. So you really have to strongly reality test. There may be some that are spot on and connect with you as keepers of the light. The affirmations around the sigils for this, with the Emperor, the affirmation is, I protect and provide for myself and my loved ones. So you definitely have a stewardship type. You've taken on a kind of stewardship responsibility now in some way in crossing the threshold. Then once you do that, the affirmation for the bringers of the light is, with this sigil I capture the light of moon and sun to cleanse and purify all who see or touch it. And if we think about it, this is more the moon energy and this is more kind of the sun energy. There's something here about what you bring to light. And it's interesting that I felt drawn to the True Black and the Ephemera Tarot to connect with the Lumen Tarot here, and the Lumen is always about light, luminary. So there's something here about balancing those things and understanding those energies with that affirmation. And then the affirmation of dealing with the prophetic ability is, I receive visions of the past, present and future. I interpret that which lies beyond the veil to the betterment of all. So it's almost like saying, when you are in this world of potential deceit or games or political machinations, trust your own visions more than others, I think it would be saying. Let's have a look with the Akashic Truth Oracle, what particular aspect of life is first really sort of involved in you crossing the threshold and dealing with these energies. Money and investments. Now that may have come up before, I'm not sure. It makes a lot of sense with this. There's certainly something about where you invest your time, where you invest your money, who you invest in, and the material outcomes. There is meant to be a material outcome with this. What is the advice around money and investments that is being triggered once you cross this threshold and you understand your environment? Forward movement. You've taken new empowered action in the direction of your dreams. Keep going. Identify tasks to reach your goals, including personal shifts such as mindset and release of emotional triggers. That would be very important if there are people who could be manipulative around you. Knowing what your emotional triggers are, not letting them get in the way of your goals, and shining light on what your goals are. Very, very important in navigating this energy. So let's get the Lumen Tarot and let's ask, firstly, what is beyond the threshold with the first encounter? And then let's ask, what is the environment and people in general like that you're dealing with? And then we'll have a look with True Black and Ephemera at the friends and the potential foes. So what's immediately past the threshold? The first encounter with the real change process, having committed to it. Remorse reversed. Nine of Wands reversed. King of Cups reversed. Handmaid of Coins reversed. So that's the Page of Coins reversed. Deceit reversed. Okay. There's definitely something about who you can trust. Now, the good thing with deceit reverse is it suggests to me you will be able to see where there is deception. You've learnt before where there is deception. If it's going to come up at all, it's going to come up in a lack of clarity around the material outcomes here. Like they're going to show themselves, I would say, by a lack of planning, a lack of logic, something like that. But also you're almost instantly going to be hit by the needs and the wants and the emotional exaggerated responses of others. You may also find that there is something, for some of you, there may almost be a kind of guilt tripping that people try, friends, family, or whatever, around this. It could be trying to trigger in you remorse. You have to be able to let go of that. So if people say, you work too hard, or you're too focused on this and you don't care about the people around you, or you're coming into an organisation and you're changing it because it has to change to survive, but people are losing their jobs and you're not caring about that. There's a lot of emotional manipulation. Once you cross this threshold, there is a sense of when you bring light to something that all the cockroaches scurry. There's like, you're going to see it. There's going to be a lot of emotional response, emotional reaction, a lack of pragmatism, and it's going to bring deceit up to the surface. But you just need to be aware that there are going to be people who want to manipulate you through emotional triggers. And the important thing is just to keep moving and keep your goals clear when this is going on, in whatever way this works, because people will see that you're a force to be reckoned with. They'll see that you're going to make change and they'll want to try and manipulate it. So it's really that sort of energy more than enemies. It's more people who want to take advantage or control you. So a little bit more about the environment, though we've already got quite a bit there, but let's just see a little bit more about the environment or people overall that you're going to approach, because they're not all going to be awful or anything, but this is just warning you what you kind of see. It's almost like you walk in and everything's a mess, and you can see it's a mess and everybody's complaining. So we got the Eight of Coins reversed, the Eight of Swords reversed, the Executioner, wow, okay, the Four of Cups reversed, okay. All right, there are some very talented people around you. That could either work for you or be a problem for you, depending upon whether they are a friend or they are some sort of competitor or enemy. But there are some very talented people who've moved beyond needing to just follow all the rules necessarily and have mastered the art. This is what I'm saying. It's like you could come across a kind of the love child of Machiavelli and Nostradamus, that kind of energy. But equally, this could be some good people that you can work with as well. This is in the environment and what you're seeing. This isn't aspects of you. This is what you're seeing. So there are some very skilled people, skilled energies and so forth around this. And there is also a true wish to liberate and do things differently. So your resistance is not going to come from anybody trying to stop the change that you're doing. I think it's more manipulating the outcome. They in fact do want change. They want very clear endings. It's just that I think that maybe some want a different ending to the other. And therefore, there's a lot of emotional energy sort of pent up in this. So it's like you've become the steward of a very broken kingdom, and you now need to work out, how do I get everybody on the same path here? There are some good people, there are some good energies around it, but I have to liberate them from what is a burden to them so that we can actually access that. But everybody's got kind of a different idea about what the burden is. So let's look firstly with ephemera, the nature. There's 3 cards for the nature of the friends and allies, because you will have friends and allies as well as potentially enemies, competitors and so forth. The friends and allies for you. We have the 4 of Swords reversed, the Ace of Wands, and the Sacrifice card. Now, the Sacrifice card is the Hanged Man. So that's the Hanged Man upright. Okay. And then with True Black, we're just going to get who could be the enemies, competitors, that kind of energy. I think this kind of more manipulative energy I'm seeing here. Because there's something in your whole soul activation that does have to do with material outcomes. This is why people all have a vested interest. So we have the 9 of Swords, the Justice card, and the Queen of Swords reversed. Okay, all right. So allies that you have will show themselves relatively quickly. They're not going to hide away. So that's helpful. And they are full of new inspiration ideas. So one of the things you're going to know in all of this is you sort of survey what you're trying to build, what you're trying to do, whether it's in a workplace or a community group or change in your family or whatever it might be. There is going to be people who have the same degree of enthusiasm and new energy to move forward. They'll have a similar energy on that to you. They're also prepared, where necessary, to sacrifice their own wants, needs and preferences for the common good. They have a single vision. Like, there will be a group that you can really connect with because you will all sort of see the right way to use energy, the right way to use power, that kind of thing. And they will make themselves known to you. And you'll see this is for the greater good. There are people around this who will be for the greater good. On the other hand, over here, there are people who are not above using fear and kind of like arguing justice issues in a fairly sneaky way. So it's like, it'd be like someone playing a social justice card, but from an illegitimate place. So that it's not so much that you're sort of redressing a real imbalance. It's like taking on a victimhood or something like that to create an imbalance in their favour, as opposed to finding the common good. So there are some very clever people who are going to be around you with this. You need to be aware, and they appear to be just. They appear to have all the facts at their disposal. They're a bit of a fearmonger, and they're very critical. They're very judgmental. So I feel like what the real difference you're going to find is there'll be one group that are kind of enthusiastic for something new, and they think about the greater good rather than how it impacts them. And then there will be others that try to imply that they are neutral, but they're anything but, because every time something moves away from what they would want, they're going to do scare tactics and they're going to get critical. That's how you're going to know. For these people, if it moves away from what their preference would be, as long as for the greater good, their energy is going to be with it, and they will vocally support it. These ones will go, I'm all for fairness, it must be fair, but the minute it moves away from their interests, then all the sort of PR techniques come out. So it's sort of important to be aware of that, aware of how to deal with that kind of energy. So yeah, it's you are in an interesting, politically sensitive area, I think, Paul. As you cross the threshold and so forth. So let's have a look at some wildcard energy, and then also some sort of grounded energy around what you find when you cross the threshold. So 2 wildcard energies for you. Inner beauty, self-love, romantic feelings, falling in love. You may meet someone through this. If you're looking for love, you may well do it. And I think the fact this naturally fell where the friends were, there will be a kind of a meeting, a soul meeting, if that's the case. Otherwise, the beauty of what you're doing may not be immediately apparent to others unless they have a similar open heart. There could be ones that appear like they're so much more virtuous because they're not coming in and causing the amount of change or whatever it is, but they're not. Your beauty, you are not using your beauty and your charisma and all that to manipulate. And because you are being careful about that, others may be doing that. So another wildcard energy around crossing the threshold and understanding your terrain. Okay. I'm not going to say what that is, but you can see what it is. I don't give a, you know what? Focus on yourself. Bad biatch. Avoid the, and self-care. Okay, so I do think this is actually showing the two things. There is an energy around here where people are all about themselves. And if you push too hard, they're just not even going to listen. And over here, the true ones are going to have inner beauty. So you're getting both. You're getting ones that are really all about themselves, and you're getting those who are the inner beauty. The thing, though, is that I feel like in your situation, the ones that sit in this energy appear to be the virtuous ones, and these ones are actually the virtuous ones. It makes me think of, there's a stage in Pride and Prejudice where Lizzie has found out that Wickham is not as good as he appears. He's in fact the bad guy, and Darcy, for all that he's a bit snooty, is the good guy. And she sort of says one has all the goodness and one has all the appearance of it. And I feel like this is kind of what you're dealing with in this situation. So what is this environment itself? If that's the wild card, what's the energy around the environment, the earthly environment where all this is happening itself? Okay, we have Avebury standing stones. I seek knowledge and receive greater knowledge when I am ready. Greater power means greater responsibility. It is a natural part of life to exclude and include. Discernment is necessary. So this is when you take on this responsibility, you need the discernment and who you include and who you don't include. That's what you need to ground. That's the energy of the environment that you're in. Pole 1. So let's get you a couple of cards from the light and a couple of cards from shadow to help you navigate the sort of people that are involved here. So for the energy around those who are your friends, people of the light, know your fears. They are well aware of who they are, and they will help you understand when fears are being triggered. It's also important for you to know your fears so that you don't become susceptible over here. And the source of all. Yeah, this is a sense of one for all and all for one, that kind of way of saying things from the Three Musketeers, that kind of energy. This is an understanding that everything is interconnected, and what is happening materially with responsibility and care has to take account of the greater good. So there is really a sense here of your allies are going to be those that have the greater good in mind and are not easy to manipulate, and that you hopefully taking on the same energy won't be either. But the shadow energy that you're dealing with from those who are enemies or competitors, the future, adventure, luck, infinity. These people, this is the prophecy. I do think that you're going to come across people who seem to have a prophetic mindset. And they may well have it, but they're not necessarily using it for good. That was what it was sort of feeling like. And it felt like false prophet, false future. And they want the control over the future. They want to build a future that works for them. And the key, transition, discovery, threshold. Some of them may literally try to imply or literally hold the key to something. So you may have to bargain with some people to get the information, to get the access, all of that kind of thing that is necessary. That's possible. So, and I think actually thinking back to the first of this series, there was something about learning and getting access there as well, because you were drawn in by the Hierophant. So yes, there's something here. It may even be some of what you do right at the beginning around what you study and so forth. The key that you got there may be connected more to the people that are going to be manipulative as you cross the threshold than the other way around, which might be why I think the second of the series view was more about finding your individuality. So there's an interesting thing here. Your allies have a lot of inner beauty. They understand what's going on. They're connected. They're for the greater good. They're calling on your sun energy. But there's something about those that almost could give you access to parts of this that you need, and who claim to know the future or be part of the future, that are also potentially enemies or competitors. So you just need to be aware of it. It's like the people that might have taught you and given you access, you've then got to move beyond them and find those who want to use this energy in a more selfless way, because there's something very calculating in this energy that you have to deal with. Okay, so let's get you some signs to work out how you will know one from the other. So I'm going to get a sign or energy from the nature, lucid dreams, terror, nature side of things for the ones who are natural friends, who are connecting with your nature. What is a sign that can let you know when you are with those people or in that part of the terrain, having crossed the threshold? Blue. It's interesting, that's very blue. There's blue around there. Calm, emotions, tranquility, trust, loyalty, potential. There could be all sorts of things. They could have blue eyes. They could wear blue clothes. They could like the music with the blues. There could be anything like that. But I think overall this is a sense that there is a calm, an emotional calm around it, a sense that you can be tranquil, that you can trust. I think you wouldn't be on high alert when you were around them. I think you will know by that. You'll have a sense within your heart that there is loyalty, there is potential here. And they calm things down. Because they know the fears, these people over here are working on you, and because maybe with some of them you've even studied with them or something like that, so they know you well, this group can actually help calm that energy for you. And remember, if you're the emperor, they often say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. A lot of what they do has to do with who's advising them. So this is something to be aware of. You need to have the right people around you. Then the energy that could be shown when this more calculating, manipulative side is around you is airplane, drive, ambition, motivation, momentum, radical change. These ones change for a future that they say only certain people or elite people can actually go to, I think. It's a bit like, people who talk about, climate change and all that. And yet, as elites, they sort of go around in their private planes. Like there's something hypocritical about it. So this is part of it. They're using that because of their own ambition. So it'll be pretty clear, I think. It's interesting. There's this blue energy at the back here. I feel like there's always your people with you, even when you're having to deal with that energy, which I think is really, really nice. So that's good. So let's also see about stars to guide you, as we've been doing across the readings. Aquarius, uniqueness, idealism, vision, activism. Yeah, this is the transpersonal side of this energy. And a lot of this is about the future. You are building something in the future. This is why also this could be a bit compelling sometimes. But Aquarius is more transpersonal. It looks at what is the philosophy behind things, not just the material things. Capricorn would be more this energy. Capricorn with a bit of maybe Gemini thrown in potentially. And then we have Mintaka, nostalgia, belonging, community. Yeah, this is about creating a new world that is about the true community and so forth. So that is the thing to keep in mind. What is the community that you're creating? That will help you discern who are the right people to move forward with and how you are a steward to this, how you take on the responsibility, what your terrain is and what the terrain is that you're trying to make. Okay, so as we've done always before, I want to just finish up with a card that gives a bit of a taste for the energy coming up into the next one in the series. So the next energy in the series is about jumping into the change itself and attempting the change, like really tilting at what you want to do here, what your soul has been activated to do. So we're just going to get a card from the Path of the Illuminated Soul to see the spiritual energy around that next stage for you. Perfect storm, the weather vane. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. You are going into a bit of a perfect storm. You're having to deal with all this energy. It says, when lightning strikes and towers do fall, weather the storm. So, and there's an interesting connection here, I've got to say, without wanting to give away too much, though this probably will, but there is a soul activation energy that is creating a through line here, which is about prophecy. And that connects to tower type energy. So I think that some of you may be connected. But I feel like the ones that are coming to the soul activation here are the more pure channel, but there are others who may appear to be like that as well too. So there's going to be a lot of prophets, true prophets and false prophets in all of this. The thing is to be able to weather that storm and get the clarity, and always keep your eye on the community that you're trying to support and protect, I would say, pile one. So I hope that that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in part 4. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Tower as the activation energy. And if you have been following this series then, and you were following my guidance, which was to stick to a particular pile, at least as your core story, then you'll know that we had the Tower before. And this makes perfect sense, because your story is the story of a prophet, and a prophet has to deal and sees the big changes, the big sweeps of history, the aeons coming, the centuries coming, the different ages, the industrial age, the technological age, God knows what the next age is after that, all of that kind of thing. So that makes sense. The Tower energy, part of the prophet's role is to see and understand when the old needs to complete itself, fall away for the new to come in. So it makes sense that if you're crossing the threshold, you are still crossing the threshold into a time of change and turbulence, because that is what you've foreseen. You would be heading into the thing that you foresaw. That makes perfect sense. What's interesting is that here with the oracle cards, we have the environment you step into and then the people that you come across. And the people you come across, the oracle card that came for you is the same as what was in you resisting this, resisting the call of this soul activation, the issue of the keeping of secrets, the secret keeper, the energy of, do I have enough information? Or is there information that I'm not seeing? So I think this is saying that for you, partly you will meet some of your own self, a kind of shadow or a mirror of your own self in your own resistance in people that you come across. And partly also that you were right in some ways to be wary about whether you had all the information, because there could be some, particularly maybe more in the enemies or the competitors, who are holding pieces of information that if you had them, you would be able to bring your prophecy together more clearly. But it's interesting. So you, again, as the prophet, it does not surprise me that you are meeting the people and energy similar to what your resistance was. It's just another piece of information to show that you're the prophet. But this is saying that when you first move through cross the threshold, this is the corpses of creation. It's an interesting title, but it really is a creative force. It's out of that which was difficult comes the new beauty. And so you have a pearl here, and a pearl is actually created by irritation. The oyster has irritation and creates the pearl. We have here almost like a dragon's corpse. So out of the energy of accepting your prophetic pathway and the fact that that means that certain change is inevitable at this point, out of this crossing the threshold is a sense that you can create things. Makes it very interesting then that we have 2 cups cards here, Sophia's journey, the 4 of cups, which is like, what is the foundation around this emotionally? What and where is there a block, and where can that actually be moved past? And the 6 of cups, which brings things into harmony, but which also has some nostalgia. I think that this is saying that the most difficult thing in this, but also maybe the seeds of what will create the pearl, is knowing what you can emotionally let go of. And finding with Christ's journey, which is swords, with the 3 of swords reversed, that it will be less painful than you expected. So that's good. There is a sort of sense here that even if you've sort of seen the change, when it comes right down to it, like letting go of some of the emotional things that no longer work for you, the system, whatever it is that you're prophesying about, the pain of the separation will be less than you'd think. But you will have a thing here. There may be some friends and allies that give you the information that shows you that. So you're welcomed into, a mystery school or an order or some sort of profession or something like that where your future focus is very much appreciated, but it's also equal that some may keep secrets from you. The good news though is this is also a card that says that your secrets are kept safe. So if you are going through this process, you are able to keep the privacy that you need from any that you feel you need to keep that privacy from. That's very interesting if some of your prophetic ability is around dealing with the changes that are occurring as a rise of technology, because it becomes harder and harder to have privacy in this world. So it seems that you will be able to cloak yourself if it's necessary. The affirmations. Let's go to the affirmation. I have read this for you in the last part, but I'm going to read it again for now. The affirmation of the Tower. I withstand, persevere, rebuild, and survive. You are going to come through this, and so are the people that you support. When we then look at the corpses of creation, which, as I say, is all about having the creativity that you need to create the pearl. The affirmation is, I create and am creative. I think there is a very strong indication here that one of the ways that you could communicate your prophecy is through something creative. I think I may have even said it in one of the other ones. You know, George Orwell, for instance, was a prophet in many ways, but his creative work, 1984, is something that is it 1980, or was that Aldous Huxley? I think Orwell was 1984. Yeah. Aldous Huxley was Brave New World. But either of them are sort of good examples of that. And then the affirmation for the Keeper of Secrets. My privacy is maintained and secure. My secrets are kept hidden. So for you, you do have the cloak of invisibility, almost glamour magic if you need it, in the situation that you're in. So let's see, as you cross the threshold towards your prophecy, towards what you know is coming, what is the area of your life that you most feel this new terrain in, and what you need to understand? Money and investment. So there's something here either in how you invest your time, or how you make money or resources, or how money and resources are being shared and dealt with within the community, or whatever it is that you're dealing with. So although there's a lot of emotional stuff, there's something about really material things. The advice for you at this stage is authenticity. Be your divine self at all times. You weren't designed to fit in. Break away from expectations and fully express yourself in your own unique way, and you'll be a magnet for success. So there's something here about staying true to your creation and your vision, even if people don't understand it. And I've said before for pile 2 in this particular series that, as they say, a prophet is never honoured in their own land. There will be a period of time during this where people don't understand what you're doing, but stay authentic. That's where the best outcome will come for you. Okay, so let's use some tarot. Let's use the Lumen Tarot first. I'm also then going to use the Ephemera and True Black decks, because I want to use them to have a look at the people that you're dealing with. But firstly, I just want to get a little bit more of an idea about what's beyond the threshold, what the first encounter is like, and then what are the environment and people on a broad level like for you as you commit and you cross the threshold. Pile 2. Pile 2. Ace of Coins. The Devil reversed. The Wheel of Fortune reversed. The Handmaid or Page of Wands. Science. Okay. All right. The first thing to say when you look at this terrain, when you cross the threshold, is the ultimate outcome of what your prophecy is about is something new and material. And at some point, your prophecy, which is very much of the liminal and the magical, is going to need to have some evidence with science. So the environment you're in is going to want to see that. They're going to see the evidence. They're going to see all of that kind of thing. There is a potential to expand and support it if they can see it, but that's something that some are going to require to see before they allow that to come through. You're certainly about liberating for new energy, and this is why money and finances has come through. Liberating for new energy. This is breaking out of a pattern that had to break. It makes perfect sense, the Devil and then the Tower card. But you may feel the timing is still not right. Now, that would make sense. If you're seeing this prophetically, you're coming through, you can see the vision. You can know that evidence will come, but timing and evidence are difficult when you're a prophet because you're always ahead. So it's almost as though you have to seed things, work on liberating minds and so forth, but be a little bit careful about when you bring the full vision out. you've almost got to plant some seeds and prove it for those that are skeptical and want to see the proof, so that then people can see the direction and go with you. So I feel almost like if your prophecy was some change to the financial audit, you almost have to do some seeds about early signs of this. Once they start to prove true, then you're going to bring the skeptics over to your side. But it's like the minute you walk across the threshold, no matter how clear your vision is, it's not necessarily going to be accepted by everybody. So let's have a look at the general environment that you encounter at this beginning point, and the general sort of people around before we look at friends versus foes. Heaven reversed. Yeah, these are not people who are spiritual necessarily. I think that you're doing this in an area where you're going, oh, I've seen a vision. It's just not going to work. Eight of Wands reversed. Yeah, they don't have the freedom and so forth. They feel constrained in what they can do. Yeah, and they're not necessarily wise. Okay. They need to be released from greed. But on the other hand, the best of them, this is not about greed. This is not about trying to hold on to things. Some would actually be open to something new. If they could see the evidence, they'd be open to it, because they're not trying to greedily hold on to having the most toys or whatever. That's not really going on. But they don't have the spiritual connection. The people that you're trying to bring this information to are not spiritually attuned like you, and they go slower than you would want to go. But that goes with the territory. You don't have 10 prophets in a group of 12 people. You have one. You're lucky if you have one. You probably have one prophet in 1,000 people. So you're kind of 1 in 1,000 at the very least. So that's why you need to understand that. This is whatever you're doing here, whatever you're looking at, is not necessarily a spiritual prophecy in terms of around spiritual change. This is around something material, something that would need evidence, something that has got to do with the world of man. So let's have a look at what your friends and foes energy is. So using the Ephemera Tarot, we're going to get a sense of those who are your friends and allies. We have the Fighter. Now the Fighter is the Empress. Then we have the King of Swords reversed. So some of the people who actually, that makes sense. These are the people who are the initial allies will not be as scientific as the rest. Actually, I think that's what that's saying. It's not people that you can't trust. It's that they're not people of science, your initial friends. And then we have Dolces reversed, and that is the Devil reversed. So yeah, when you cross the threshold, you'll meet one of them almost instantly that you come across the threshold. I'll just put out the other cards and then I'll talk. So where you have energy that could be foes or competitors is Three of Cups reversed, Three of Pentacles reversed. Oh, that's interesting. And the Four of Pentacles. All right. Okay. I think that's quite interesting. So I think you know most of the people who are going to be foes already. But I'll get to why I'm saying that. Whereas these may be new people. The Empress energy suggests that there's a divine, feminine, nurturing, abundancing. If you can create a vision for the future that is abundant and it's a harvest and is of both divine, feminine and masculine, like it's kind of well balanced, that would work. There will be people around who aren't looking for evidence. They're looking for the creative spark. This is why we're also seeing the creative energy. They will very much respond to anything creative you may talk about and so forth. This is why creative ways of expressing what you're doing may be the best way to bring in your advocates. And with Dolces reverse, with the Devil reverse, they want to be freed from something. They don't just like the scientific, cold approach. They want something that is abundant and creative and growthful. So there will be those that get it and who welcome a prophet's energy and will want to follow that you're doing and want to support it and help create it. Over here, you've got two of the friendship cards reversed. You've got the friendship card of the Three of Cups, and then you've got the friendship or collaborator card of the Three of Pentacles. Former friends and collaborators are not going to get this new thing. They may be very stubbornly trying to hold on to not changing things. So this may mean that you are breaking with organisations, friends, groups that you work with, old ways of doing things, and pretty much they aren't going to follow you. It's new people coming in who can see the future. So you have part of the issue, and part of why you had the resistance, and geez, it's going to work, I think, is because you have been surrounded by people who are very much of the old order and who do not want to see it. Like, it's like, that's repressed. They do not want to see it. If you were talking about, some sort of political or social prophecy, they would just not want to talk about it. And I've said this a few times in looking at Pole 2's trajectory here. There are some people, including spiritual people, who cannot deal with what's going on in the world at the moment. And I don't mean it as a criticism. I'm just saying that they're not going to be the people who are going to move forward with this. There are some that are going to put their heads in the sand and hope you guys sort it out, but they don't want to be involved. And I almost feel here, just understanding, I don't think by and large you've got many enemies. You've got people who would just doubt you, just not listen to you. Because they're very conservative with the Four of Pentacles. And I don't mean that politically, I mean in terms of the status quo. But there are others, I think, that won't be your allies. They won't be your active foes, but they're just not going to listen. They're just not going to hear. And that there's a lot of people from your past that fall into that category, Pole 2. Okay, let's get you some wild card energy around what this new threshold is like, and then we'll get some grounding energy around it. So firstly, a couple of cards of the wild card energy. Who run the world? Okay, so I think this is the divine feminine thing: discover talent, artistic expression, internal resources. I think the way these wild cards are falling, they're falling in the two different groups. This will be the people that you need to have. They actually have more to do with creating new worlds and being creative than anything. So you will have that energy. It's not all going to be the same old, same old. Once you commit to crossing the threshold with your prophecy, you'll naturally draw people who are very vibrant in the world and are more connected spiritually and creatively. Then another wild card, the cherry on top, finishing touches, satisfaction, conclusion of a project. I think what this is saying is, when I said I don't think these are enemies, they're just people who are afraid of change and afraid of the future. I actually think what this is saying, once this is done, they will become friends as well. But you can't expect it until it's done. It's not, as I say, it's not that they mean harm, it's just they can't do it. They're not able to do that yet. Let's look at a grounded energy so in terms of the environment that you're dealing with. Valley of the Kings. Death is transformation. It's a natural part of life. There are consequences to all actions, no matter how small. This transformation has to occur. It's very interesting too that this cherry on top person's like a gravedigger. Those that resist, those that go with the change, it goes fairly easily, just as it is with the Tower. It becomes a creativity that brings on the star. For those that resist it, they almost have to go through the full transformation and feel the death and rebirth almost to be able to then be part of the new world, to be part of all of that energy. But this is transformative. You are stepping into significant transformation. So let's see some energy of the light and then also energy of the shadow for you to deal with. So of the light and of your allies in this new environment. Surrender to the flow. Yeah, these people are not looking for all the evidence. They're going with the flow of the creativity, of the heart. Very protective with the ladybird symbol there. Your protective energy will align with theirs. And seek the lesson. Okay, these ones are open to seeing the change and what needs to change and what the lesson of the change is. They don't want history to repeat. They don't even want it to rhyme, as they say. They really want a change to be profound and not to keep having to go through the cycles that we as humans often need to do. When we're looking at the more shadow energy around this environment for you, we have the crossroads, opportunity, indecision, influence. Yeah, at the crossroads, these people probably just hesitate and don't move. They do kind of see it, but it's scary for them. And the future, adventure, luck, infinite. They will eventually be able to move into the future. They can't deal with it at the moment. The crossroads stop them from seeing it. But they can go from the shadow to the light eventually. It is telling you the people who are not with you at this point will eventually be with you. So you're not really losing your friends and so forth. It's just that you have to find new people to work with and move forward through this change because it's inevitable, and people like you have to shine the light that it will eventually help and bring the others along when they're ready and able to see it. Okay. So let's have a look at some signs around the friendship, signs around, I would say the more conservative, I don't want to know till I have to know type of energy. So we'll get something from the lucid dreams, terror, sort of the earthly kind of energy to see what we would see as a sign that you are connecting to the people that are going to be your allies. Ocean, oh, that makes sense because this looked to me almost like the kind of cosmic ocean. Flow, again, go with the flow. Flow, potential, emotion, spirituality, feminine energy. Very feminine energy actually around this. Very divine feminine with the Empress card and so forth. And then I get something from the more human condition, which is usually the more sort of structured and potentially shadow energy compared to nature. But I think in this case it's just more a sign that these people are ready to see the truth, probably more than that they're enemies or foes. Ritual, spiritual protection, initiation, community, routine, complacency. When the changes become more ritualized, it's more routine, it's more the norm, then they will be able to deal in and be part of the community. They're just not creatures of change. And that's okay. As I say, I don't feel that you're actually dealing with a really profoundly negative energy. It's just that some will be slower to come on board. That's pretty normal in any kind of change process. Okay, let's get you some stars to guide your progress, my wonderful prophets. Alpha Centauri, protection, logic, analysis, warrior spirit. You will be protected. There is a sort of a sense here about being able to understand and work your way through this. And where necessary, if there are any naysayers that are more around science, find the ways to express it in a way that people will come with you. And Procyon, personal development, soul growth, breathwork, light codes. I think this is to make sure that you look after yourself as well too, and that you are connected as much to light energy because you're dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. But at the end of the day, any kind of transformation you help to support and bring in is also a transformation for you. Okay, so just to finish off, what I try to do now is I have a card that almost draws us into the next step. So the next step is all about really attempting the change, and seeing like there's two sort of steps, the attempt and sort of really, sort of like embracing it and attempting it. So it's some big change energy that we'll be looking at in the soul activation. So let's just see with the path of the illuminated soul, what kind of energy is involved in that for you. Eternal love, the gold ring. To love is to know that I am sacred and my love is eternal. This is an act of love. For some of you, it may bring in love as well too when you do it, if you're looking for love. It may be the alchemical marriage within. But this is an act of love. What you're doing is an act of love. Regardless of people not maybe being able to see it, it is an act of love. Some may find it tough love, but it is still an act of love. And I think that there will be a lot of love from the universe for you as well. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the fourth part. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Magician as the archetype and sigil to draw you in. And of course, the Magician is all around your skills, having the variety of skills, all the different sort of elements are skillfully deployed. It's about communication. It's about magical power, manifestation, all of those things. It's also, I think, a bit of a trickster energy when necessary and able to present itself, deflect and do other things like that to create the environment that you need. And that may be necessary for you as you cross the threshold and you look into this environment, given the oracle cards that we have. Certainly here we have an oracle card of rebirth and transformation. So this is saying, and this has released a lot of energy for you to be able to go forward with a great deal of energy. And this may have come up for you before, or I may have seen it in another reading. I'm not sure. I think there could be some cross-fertilization across these readings now, which is interesting for anybody who's going to more than one pile all the way through. But there's certainly an energy of release and being able to create something now and move forward. So that sense of dynamism and the chariot and taking your energy and getting the freedom and working out what you can transform to make this what you want it to be rather than just a kind of chore. You seem to be, when you cross the threshold, you've made that sort of shift and that change and you feel liberated. What you're going to come across, this is the King of Wealth. So there's something about the change energy, the creative energy, the movement forward, which is going to have to deal with the material world in some way. I feel this card's very similar to the King of Pentacles. So this could be that the environment provides you a great opportunity to make wealth and money out of this, but it could also be that there are some purveyors of money, wealth and authority that you have to deal with in the environment. So it could be a bit of both. The interesting thing here is one of the main things, because you, in your first reading, if you've been following this all the way through, you had the Chariot. So this was about balancing things. And in that, Basilides, the Wheel of Fortune came up, if I recall correctly, but reversed. So it was saying that you were coming into the right timing. This is saying the right timing is when you cross the threshold. That's the stage where things start to really speed up for you and go in the right direction. But this is also where it is doubly important to have things in balance, because Basilides, amongst other things, was the first to talk about Abraxas, which was a god of sorts that was both light and dark, good and evil, whatever you want to call it, the balance of all things. And then we have here Sophia's Journey, so that's 2 Cups cards, the King of Cups reversed and the 2 of Cups reversed. There is something here about healing the heart that becomes clear once you've gone through this transformation. That is something that needs to be brought into balance with this. And it may be when it's coming up against material reality. The heart and the creative energy and the freedom that you have and the transformation you've gone through and all the skills that you have, you may need to bring into balance the emotional response to where there's rigidity or money or power that you have to deal with, particularly where it doesn't help you. This could help you sometimes, though, as well. And it certainly is a card of fortune. So I would say that there are both people in your environment who will be helping you towards your good fortune in this way, and respecting the skills that you're bringing and the change process that you've gone through. But I think there will also be the more rigid ones. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. When we look at the affirmations, the affirmation for the Magician is, I manifest my desires into reality. So this is where you're at, crossing the threshold. You are wanting to manifest something. You are wanting to bring something into being. So therefore, it's good that the first step of the environment is all about change. This is the Master of Rebirth, and the affirmation is, I release the past and embrace the future. So you are moving forward. You've made that decision. Then, as I say, when you have the Lord of Wealth, the affirmation is, I am wealthy. So there is definitely a sense that you could create wealth out of this in one form or the other, whatever wealth means to you. But this is also where you could have both friends and foes. So it would be in the material issues. So having a sense of balance, particularly around what this means to you emotionally, is going to be important, because a lot of the early playing out of this soul activation is going to be very, very material. Okay, so let's see what area of life, when you cross the threshold and you start to manifest your desires, what area of life is most aspected at this stage? Personal and spiritual growth. So even though there is a material outcome and there could well be a material reward, this is primarily meant to bring you into balance and your own spiritual power and so forth. So what is the advice for you at this stage? Victim mindset. You feel the world is against you and this will only cause you to attract more negative results. Stop the blame and take responsibility for your happiness. Only then will abundance start to flow. So this is whatever this emotional stuff is, the emotional pain or whatever. You may be carrying at this stage some emotional pain. I think in the last reading, if you have been following it through as I suggested, there was something where there was a kind of, I'm finally free, I finally got momentum, and now I've got another responsibility, like what the hell's going on? So there could be something there. You do need to see this as being towards your personal growth and evolution. And if there are emotional issues that are associated in this transformation, you need to heal those and get those into balance to be fully able to deal with the material outcome and to manifest what you want rather than manifesting what other people want. So let's get a little bit more information. Let's firstly just get a bit more of an idea about what crossing the threshold energy is for you, pile 3. Hell reverse. Well, that's good. coming out of a difficult situation, breaking free. The Crucible reversed. Oh, that's interesting. The Sailor. Wow, you're getting a lot of the additional major arcana. The Caveman. Oh, wow. And the King of Swords. So rational thinking is going to help here. Balance thinking, balance again. Your mind and your strategy is definitely going to help. Hell reversed to me suggests that you're coming out of feeling bound up. It's very similar to the Devil card. The Uranus energy there is a breakthrough. There is breaking out of what was a difficult situation. And it may have been that it was kind of hellish to get to this point. If you had been resisting some of this and the resistance was making you feel trapped, and if it was causing issues emotionally for you, there may literally have been hell that you went through to get to the point of being able to cross this threshold. There is in Dante's Inferno the concept that the only way out is through. When you get to the ninth circle of hell, you have to go through the hell mouth to get free. So there may be a kind of energy along those lines. The other thing about this too is that with the Crucible reverse, this is about sort of opposites attracting. Or there could be something about love coming in this point that is tricky and you have to work your way through. The Crucible is about the alchemical vessel, bringing things into balance. So the fact that the Crucible is reversed, there is some sort of emotional, I think, and soul sort of energy that's been about getting to this point. So, and it could be because I feel this particular group goes very fast. So it could have been very fast. And I can't remember if it was this group, but one group I was talking, it may very well have been this one. I had that sort of sense that you have a Band-Aid on sensitive skin and you've got to rip it off really fast because it's painful, but then it gets it over and done with. The other thing that interests me about this, when we have this concept of the underworld, the actual symbol that goes with the Crucible card is the pomegranate. So there's a kind of Persephone go into the underworld feeling about this. So it feels like to get to that kind of rebirth, you literally went through something that was really difficult. Even if it was just your own resistance and that kind of thing, it was very difficult to do. But now you're ready to go out and explore. You know, so the Sailor is ready for that. Even in what appears to be here somewhat rough waters, there is a sense of like being able to steer the ship and move forward. It's very obvious that although the Sailor here is about exploring things, with the Caveman, this is really about material stuff. This is very earthy. They're both the earth symbol. This is why we have the King of Wealth there. And the Caveman is asking us to go back to our roots, to our beginnings, simplifying things. Who are we at our core? So there is something here about that. So it is moving into sort of like speeding up, moving quickly, creating something, going through transformation, but it is to become true to your roots. There may be a very strong ancestral connection here that's important. There may be one of your ancestors coming through as a spirit guide, as the King of Swords, but there is a sense of right thinking that's necessary, that comes out of a little bit of a storm and a dark sort of thing, emerges out of that into the world. The other thing that is interesting actually about the Caveman, if you look at this as being down in the underworld, and this may be being the passage from the underworld, when you come up from the underworld, then you come to the lower world, and that's where the sort of prehistoric energy is, and that's part of your soul. I'm talking about shamanic sort of journeying here. So there may well be something there that you went through that sort of a process to get to this. The balance is something that you can think through. This is why the mindset is important. This could have given you a victim mindset, but if you actually get back to who you are in your soul, then you can bring the balance in and escape that kind of issue. So there is sort of something here. I feel like you're being asked to sort of take on something that is a little bit sort of constraining when you really want to be free. And I think, you know, in the last sort of reading, there was a sense of like a soldier in another battle. But I do feel that this is getting you back to your soul and back to who you truly are, and that in doing that, you're reborn and that you will be rewarded. That's what this is saying. So let's sort of see just a little bit about the environment and the people before we have a look at friends versus potential foes. Handmaid of Wands. The Executioner reversed, Hope reversed, Time reversed. Yeah, this has been, I think Time reversed has come up for you before. I think it has, because it's sort of saying there's something very urgent about all of this. You can't dilly-dally, basically. Like this environment requires quick action. There is something, it's like you went through your own dark night of the soul, and now in your change in your energy and what you're going to carry forward and what you're going to create, you've got to actually help others go rapidly through their own one and end the energy that is all about despair, recreate the energy of creativity, and reclaim hope. And there's something very visionary about it. The hope card here, the picture, is meant to show Joan of Arc. So there's a sense here of the visionary, but it's like the environment you're in is going so fast it can't even have a vision of what hope would be, and things are ending and changing. It's like there's something in this where you're meant to bring a creative energy back. That's why you're meant to do this. It's not that you're meant to go into a battle per se, and I think this sort of showed last time as well. It's not really a battle so much as helping others, but you're kind of used to a battle. But your own process and what you've gone through can actually help others create and be freed as well. It's more about freeing people from a lack of hope and from busyness that's not doing anything. So let's see what allies and what foes you may have. So we're going to use the Ephemera Tarot for the allies, and we're going to use the True Black Tarot for the foes. And we're just going to get 3 cards to try and describe those sort of energies around crossing the threshold and getting a sense of the terrain that you're in. We have the 10 of Swords, the Victor card. The Victor card is the Emperor. And the counterpoint, the Lovers. Then in terms of potential foes or competitors, we have the Star. All right, that's interesting. We have the the 4 of Wands reversed. And we have the Page of Wands reversed. Okay. There is something very creative. There's a speedy, creative, regenerative energy about whatever this soul activation is for you and what you're actually doing once you cross the threshold and you get into the environment. You will find some of your friends have been through the same sort of pain or hell, that there is that kind of sense that you're emerging, you're all transforming, the butterflies here at the same time. There are very strong energies around power that will help you, particularly with that King of Wealth. And you certainly will. I think there will be those that have money, material outcomes and so forth that can help. And there is either a lover coming in or there is a very good relationship with someone in power that will help you around whatever this is, whatever power means in this situation. But I do think there's meant to be some sort of material outcome. Your foes might be those that don't want more than 1 star on the terrain. They're not really team players. And they're not as creative as you, but they want to be seen as the one that everybody looks at, the one that everybody pays attention to. So I think there's something very creative and charismatic and quick and interesting and fascinating about you that draws a lot of good energy. And I think there's jealousy. I think you'll have jealousy from a wannabe, basically. So that's something to be aware of in whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so let's look into that a bit more. Let's get a wild card energy around friends and a wildcard energy around foes, and then a grounding energy between for the environment that you're in. So a wildcard energy around the sort of friends and allies is sorry, I almost dropped a card. Whenever I do that, I want to reshuffle. Around the friends is, oh, that's interesting. The Mermaid and the Puppet, two-faced manipulation and love, inaccessible heart fascination. I feel actually that this is saying you may have a very strong, powerful person who's gone through some really difficult love energy. Remember at the beginning it showed that the emotional stuff, emotional disappointments, I think you're going to find that there's 2 of you that have gone through something like that, and you're going to have a real energy together. Anywhere where you've been hurt in love and they've been hurt in love, it's going to be a natural meeting point for you. Then in terms of a wild card around the wannabe energy, my fear is face the nightmare, anxiety, creative block. Yeah, they have a creative block. Your creative energy, they would do best to sort of follow and sort of like connect in with your energy, but they're threatened by it. They would be the type that if you were successful, they would not want to hear or talk about that because that gets in the way of them rather than actually taking from that energy and like learning from it and being inspired. They just want to compete and they want to deny. Let's have a look at the earthing energy that brings it all together in this environment. Wow, my backyard, home is where I make it. I can find sanctuary every day. So know that you will be at home wherever you are. Know that no matter what the change or the transformation is, you have the strength and the ability to move through that. Know that you can always have your home as your sanctuary. So that's very nice, actually. So then let's have a look at the light energy, a little bit more light energy from your friends, a little bit more shadow energy from those that are potentially competing. And I think that's what it is, competing for the star spot, the creative energy, whatever it is. So around the friends, seek the lesson. These are people that want to learn from what happens. These are people that want to kind of be able to incorporate that and move on. They don't want to repeat problems. So they're open to any creative idea and moving forward and going through the change and regenerating. And follow the moon. Okay. They're very psychic, very intuitive. They'll be very open to anything psychic and intuitive around your creativity. Okay. And it's interesting, the moon rather than the star. They will follow you because it's a more soft and gentle energy than maybe this kind of look at me type of energy. So the shadow energy around the foe or foes, the surrender, avoidance, apathy, submission. Yeah, I feel like these are people who kind of have lost it. They creatively blocked. They're afraid. They don't want to support you. They don't want to even talk about it or hear about you. They've kind of surrendered. They've lost the will. They've lost the energy to move on. But it's kind of a narcissistic energy that could maybe seek to drown you and others with their own misery. So this is why it's very important, right at the beginning it was showing, in keeping the balance around emotion. What we also have is the past, grief, identity, forgiveness. This may be someone who is part of your form, like if you're almost going from one life to another life in this. So you're not literally doing that, obviously. You've got some past with these people, or you've had other people in the past like this, who, like a kind of watching. See how this is sort of almost watching with a kind of envy and a kind of anger. So I think you know this energy. This is not new to you. Okay, let's have a look at what you would see in terms of sort of signs. Firstly, when you come across your friends, and then we'll also when you have to deal with foes. So signs that you are, once you've crossed the threshold, finding your friends, the right people to be connecting with. Bull, temper, frustration, aggression, instinct, desire, lust. This is interesting. There's some tension. This is probably why we've got the 10 of Swords. When you first come across the people who are probably going to be your greatest ally, they may be a bit aggressive. They may be a bit angry. They may be a bit frustrated. There may also be quite a strong attraction for some of you. Or they're dealing with love, loss in love or something like that. But they're strong. They're strong. And ultimately very instinctive. But you may find at first it's a little bit kind of confronting dealing with, but they will become allies. So, okay, then there's the symbol or energy that's around the people who could be foes or competitors. Reaching, taking action, holding, embracing, boundaries, flexibility. These are ones you do need to have boundaries around. The interesting thing with these and a bit of the energy in general, suggests to me when you first cross this threshold, some of the people that you think may be your foes, your aggressors, or your competitors will turn out to be your greatest allies. Some of the people that you think, because maybe they're kind of familiar and you're used to that energy and you think they need your help, will seem to reach out to you, but will turn out to just want to kind of like draw you down because they don't really want help. They just want to somehow usurp you if they can just figure out how. So I think there's going to be a bit of a swap in the energy for many of you. So that's worth just bearing in mind, because you're dealing with people, I think, here like you, who've gone through a bit of a dark night of the soul, and some may still seem a bit aggressive coming out of it, but they are coming out of it and they will learn from it and strengthen from it. And others like the victim mindset and they like to just stay in that sort of way of being. So it's something to be aware of. Okay, let's also see some galactic or celestial or star guides for you. Draco. Charisma challenges judgment ascension. Wow. Draco with the serpent, shedding its skin, the transformation. This definitely is about all of that. You have a lot of charisma. People are jealous of that. Yeah, there's a lot about power. This is why we had the King of Wealth. Draco is a constellation about power. So there is a power energy once you really start going. There's something about power here. And Neptune, depth, dreams, illusion, imagination, psychic ability. The psychic ability is going to be very, very important and will be probably the thing that helps you draw out your creativity and so forth. Okay, so to finish off the reading, what I want to do is just draw a card from the Path of the Illuminated Soul to set in play the energy for the next in this series. So the next in this series looks at the steps where you actually attempt and really give a first go and see what happens with the change energy, the activation energy. So you've crossed the threshold, you've committed here, and you've worked out your environment. Then it's like the first big attempts, and see how that energy operates. So let's see what soul energy is with you for that next step. Inward, the silent day. In stillness of night, composure gives insight. Go within to find light. Yeah, you've got a lot of noise around this with other people. So when you really start to say, now that I've gone through this transformation, now I'm going to create what I want to create with this soul activation, you'll need to go within, because I just think there's a lot of noise, a lot of white noise around you. So it'll be important to clear that. So I hope that this resonated for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in part 4.